Hi, how would you like to increase your revenue without increasing your sales quotas? Now steady, before you switch off, I'm not that guy. I'm not selling some kind of networking system, or frankly I'm not selling anything. I want to show you something about your current business that you may or may not already know, and some opportunities that you can unlock without paying anybody anything. Stick with me. Well, the answer is really simple and probably obvious. You need recurring revenue. Recurring revenue comes from sales of products or services that people want to keep on buying. Now, given that it's pretty obvious, today's show is going to be fairly quick, but I want to make a very quick case for recurring revenue. Some of it's going to state the obvious, but then I want to show you a couple of tips as to how to find sources of recurring revenue. So stick with me. It's a short show today. Hope you enjoy it. So imagine that you've got an average sale value of $12,000. So that's $1,000 a month probably, and you make about 10 sales a year, and they tend to last an average of 3 years with you before moving on, so your churn is going to be 33%. Well, if that's the case, then clearly every year if we sell the same amount, $120,000, then our revenue is going to grow to $120,000, then $240,000, then $360,000, right? Well, almost. Remember, we have to allow for churn. If customers aren't going to stay with you forever or be locked in a really long contract, then we have to allow for some kind of churn. I've allowed here for 33%, meaning they last with you an average of 3 years. So now we have to factor for that. So we're going to lose a third of each last year's revenue. So, for example, if the revenue in year one was $120,000, then sometime during year two, we're going to lose a third of that, or $40,000. If the revenue in year two was therefore $200,000, not $240,000, then we're going to lose a third of that in year three, and so it goes. Now, the point about this is that your revenue absolutely keeps on increasing as your sales remains flat, and that's kind of the point of the video. However, notice that it's not increasing infinitely. The amount of increase actually starts to flatten out. I can tell you that by year 34, I know that's a long time in the future, by year 34, you're adding $120,000 worth of first year revenue with an expectation that you're going to actually add $360,000 because it's 3 years worth of revenue. In other words, every year you have to sell $120,000 just to keep your revenue flat. So it's not an endless promise. You certainly get increases, but it's not an endless increase. So what do you do to keep the growth going? You rinse and repeat. Sell recurring revenue, get it going, and then find another recurring revenue stream to sell that. Where do you find sources of recurring revenue? The answer is not to drift away from your current strategy. It's actually to double down on it. Find new ways to solve the problem that you're already focused on solving for the market that you're already focused on solving that problem for. In other words, stick with the problem, stick with the market. Find new ways to solve it. Let me explain. Identify what it really takes to solve the problem you focus on solving. Remember, the one that you want to be the best in the world at solving, or at least for a narrow segment, you want to be the best in the world at solving. Think about everything that it takes to solve that problem if you are the customer. Now, identify within that recurring tasks that your customer has to take to keep that problem at bay. Then ask your current customers which of those recurring tasks they want solved. Find a way to solve it, or solve them if there's more than one. Test and refine with your existing customers before taking that to market, and then rinse and repeat. In your funnel plan, here's where you've identified the problem that you're going to solve. You thought about several problems and you've chosen one problem that you're going to focus on solving and become the best in the world at solving. Now here is where we've described the market who most has that problem, and therefore the market that you're going to focus on, both the ideal client profile and the segments that you'll find those ideal clients. Now, neither of those are going to change. It's the same problem for the same market. At least I'm arguing that's the case. What you do want to add is a new solution element, and here's where we've described the solution. So in your funnel plan, change the solution to include recurring revenue components. And then of course, you're going to change that in the velocity. Hey, if you haven't already got a funnel plan, grab a free one to start with. Go to funnelplan.com, do it now. Go to funnelplan.com, get yourself a free funnel plan. It's free forever. There are paid versions. You can do a whole lot more with the paid versions, but start with a free one. It's a great place to start. Go to funnelplan.com now, get yourself a free funnel plan. I hope you got value out of this week. I had lots of fun putting it together for you. Loads more lined up for next week, and until then, may your funnel be full and always flowing. Our thanks this week to Claudia Ivanka for production. My name's Hugh McFarlane, and it's been my absolute pleasure to have scripted and presented this week's show.